back Wrestling Mania. As always, I'm your host Adam, and with me is my co-host Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, wrestling fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green, here to discuss one of the biggest weekends in wrestling history.
Yeah, definitely modern wrestling history. So we've got some AEW talk, specifically the debut of a new, not a new talent overall, but a new talent for AEW.
A huge acquisition for
them.
And
a fan favorite that really, despite what WWE Online will tell you or try to convince you of, was the most talked about return in wrestling of that week. And then we'll talk about SummerSlam as well. SummerSlam's going to be a little different because I unfortunately didn't get a chance to watch it, but I did watch a couple of things I want to mention with specifically, and then Donnie will take us through some of his thoughts as well. So it'll be a little different than normal, but we're still going to talk about it.
Well, I watched it multiple times, so I've got you covered.
All right. So let's start. AEW, as we know, they debuted their Friday night show, Rampage. I think it was, two weeks ago?
Yes. We're specifically going to talk about the episode from 8/21.
Yeah, the second episode was called The First Dance, and it took place in Chicago, specifically the United Center.
Yes.
And opening the show was the debut of the best in the world, CM Punk. Complete with Cult of Personality theme song. The crowd went nuts, Donnie.
I'll say it's got to be one of the top 5 ovations I've ever heard. The noise simply did not stop.
I haven't heard a pop like that in oh God, I can't remember how long.
The first thing that came to my mind was 2002 when The Rock came back to Raw after being in Hollywood, when Stone Cold quit WWE and The Rock showed up and gave the State of the Union. That's been almost 20 years. Yeah. And so that's how huge this pop was for Punk.
Yeah, it was crazy. He jumped into the crowd, and then when he cut his promo, it was very interesting because he talked about. It's not like he went up there and slandered, Vince McMahon or WWE. At least not publicly mentioning them. But I found it interesting that he left. He said he left professional wrestling in 2005.
Yes.
When he was in Ring of Honor. And now he's back to professional wrestling. I find that distinction very interesting, and because, Vince McMahon will tell you ad nauseum that it's not wrestling, it's sports entertainment.
Sports entertainment, right.
So
Vince reportedly does not like the word wrestling being used on his show. So
even though his company is called World Wrestling Entertainment.
Right. He doesn't like that reiteration.
He's a weird dude. Like, I get not liking sneezing, especially now, with whatever, but not trying to erase the word wrestling. Look, Vince, I hate to break it to you. I mean, you've made me forgot this along the way. But your company was built on wrestling.
Well, again, he's the same guy. If you watch a WWE broadcast, and if somebody has been carted out the week before or earlier in the show, they do not go to a hospital. They go to a medical facility. It's one of those words that Vince doesn't like to use on his broadcast.
It's just so it's so weird. But I found that distinction very appropriate because, in a way, he's right. The in-ring, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to slander what the performers in WWE do. When they're in the ring, they do professional wrestling.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. I just find the reason why I can pretty much only consistently watch the monthly stream previews, as I like to call them, is because that's every month. That's where I know I'm going to get a high quantity of wrestling from WWE. Whereas watching a 3-hour Raw, if you get 45 minutes of in-ring action, you're lucky.
You're lucky, yeah. That's one thing I definitely want to say about Rampage. I think that's a good format. 1 hour on a Friday, especially on a Friday night. Everybody knows about the Friday night death slot.
Yeah.
Even now, when people are recording things, even in the middle of a pandemic, that's the night when the targeted demographic doesn't watch TV. And the fact that Rampage drew 1.12 million viewers, which is huge for a Friday night, it really tells you about the star power of CM Punk. However, at the end of this podcast, I want to talk about some more numbers, something that may surprise you. Do that at the end of this podcast, so stay tuned to the end.
Okay. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. I like the fact that he basically gave out, like he paid for ice cream bars for the whole crowd.
Which was very in keeping with the CM Punk character, I thought.
Well, yeah, which is very, it's funny because one of his last promos that I remember when he was in WWE, and it was the whole, I'm gonna leave or have Vince renew my contract in the middle of the ring. In the segment, he talked about, I want you to bring back the WWE ice cream bars.
Ice cream bars, right.
With my face on it. So,
yeah.
I mean, it was a cool gesture of him to do, but I always thought, that's a callback to kind of that.
Yes. Well, WWE, they did make a T-shirt that had an ice cream bar with CM Punk on it, which was a very weird way to respond to that. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal was with the ice cream bars returning, but evidently they didn't want to do that. So,
which I think they should, because I love those things.
I never got to eat one. That's hard. That's horrible that I never got to sample one of those. But
I did. I thought it was great. So I'd be in full favor of those coming back for sure.
Evidently, the crowd at the United Center for AEW was quite impressed with his gesture. So.
Yeah, I would have been too. Are you kidding me? Free ice cream bars? Yeah. You know how much an ice cream bar costs at the Air Canada or the Scotiabank Arena, whatever the hell it's called. Basically,
the United Center.
No, well, I'm talking about where I live.
You're talking about okay, yes.
Yeah, but or the Scotiabank Arena where the Leafs play, or as I call it, the end of the season when playoffs roll around. The end of the season arena, that's what they should call it. But it costs a pretty penny to buy an ice cream bar. So that's a nice gesture by him, nonetheless. And then I love how he talked about wanting to come back to work with the young performers. And he singled out a bunch of them.
Yes.
And or he called out a bunch of them, not singled out, I should say. And then he set up a feud with Darby Allin, saying that,
who just so happened to be in the rafters with Sting. Yeah.
Yeah, how convenient. And he talked about how he throws caution to the wind. He's crazy in that respect, and the craziest thing he'll do is fight CM Punk, and even crazier doing it in Chicago, in his hometown. So they set up a match for All Out.
I'm really interested to see how that pay-per-view or that event, whatever you want to call it.
No, that's a pay-per-view because it's actually on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So I was very, very intrigued by the promo, and I thought that's going to be a very interesting match.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's it would be a good way to put the spotlight on Darby Allin to actually elevate him a little bit, even though I'm assuming that he's going to lose. It would be crazy for them to let CM Punk lose in his first few months.
It'd be pretty stupid to let him lose in Chicago, in his hometown.
Right.
And presumably what's going to be his first match.
So yeah, you've got to believe that he's going over. I'm very excited at the prospect of CM Punk versus MJF, and obviously CM Punk versus Kenny Omega.
And that's the cool thing too about you know, I like the idea going up against Darby Allin. I think is a good thing in the sense that even if Punk wins, as long as the match, you know, showcases both guys, I don't think it's going to do damage to Darby's character.
No, I don't think so at all. I think it would elevate
with the crowd.
Yeah.
So as long as he gets, you know, a spotlight to shine within the match, I think you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's smart booking. Whereas The Fiend losing to Randy Orton because Alexa Bliss is sitting on a jacket in the box with black goo all over her face.
Yeah.
Looked like the Penguin, you know, stuff from the sewer in Batman Returns. But, you know, that to me is dumb booking.
Oh, I would agree.
And that's partly why we don't have The Fiend in WWE anymore, I think.
Let me just interject this. By the way, I want to reiterate this. I'm a pro wrestling fan. I'm not for one company or the other.
Me too.
I like lots of wrestling. However, WWE, they have let a couple of guys go that could be game changers. We already knew about CM Punk. He was obviously very disenfranchised with the company when he left. Now you're talking about Bray Wyatt. You're also talking about Daniel Bryan. Two guys, if they show up in AEW.
Well, Daniel Bryan looks like all but confirmed. I mean,
that obviously, I mean, with Punk's latest promo, it seems that way.
Yeah, because the crowd was doing yes.
Yeah, exactly.
What I did throughout the whole Suicide Squad movie, every time Margot Robbie came on screen, I was at home on the couch doing this.
And Punk was like, that's someone else's stick.
That's somebody else's stick. You're gonna have to wait a little while longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wherever Bray Wyatt lands, that's a good get for, you know, whether it's Impact or AEW, and of course, if he lands on one, he could always show up on the other show because they have a deal in place where they work together.
Yes.
But yeah, like I like you said, I'll watch both companies, provided that, you know, the shows are good and, you know, they're giving me good shows. But my thing is, I just think The Fiend was horribly done a disservice.
Well, you know, recently, Goldberg's debut with WWE, the fans were booing Goldberg and chanting, "We want Wyatt." You're talking about, you know, Bray Wyatt and or The Fiend has been presented as a main eventer for years now. And he suddenly cut loose for whatever weird reason. We don't know.
But my thing is, why have him lose in those kind of fashions?
Exactly.
Like the last 2-3 losses were ridiculous.
Yeah.
First of all, somebody like The Fiend should have been the guy that ended the Undertaker streak, not part-time lover Brock Lesnar.
I would agree. Yeah.
You know, like you want to build up The Fiend as this supernatural entity, right?
Right.
What better way to do that than to end the WrestleMania streak of the other supernatural like, Donnie, I'm not a wrestling promoter, right? I can't lay that claim to fame. But correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't been in school for years. But 1 + 1, does it still not equal 2?
Well, as Punk's theme song said, I'll tell you 1 and 1 make 3. And I kind of believe that Vince McMahon would be the kind of guy to try to convince you of that. So
maybe. But so yeah, I just think, you know, making Punk, going back to Punk, making him lose in his debut match in his hometown would be the equivalent of what they did to Bray Wyatt the last 3 times he lost.
Yes.
So,
but again, you're talking about someone who is responsible for moving a lot of merchandise.
Yeah.
His segments, the Firefly Funhouse, those were insanely popular with WWE audiences, and they cut this guy loose. So not only are you taking out someone who was appealing to your audience, you're possibly letting him go to the competition.
Yeah.
I don't understand that kind of move. So.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking over there. But you know what I've recently found out? I didn't know this. I was doing some research on The Fiend, or Bray Wyatt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who his father is?
Mike Rotundo.
Yeah, IRS.
Yes, his real name is Wyndham Rotundo. He was named after Barry Windham, Mike Rotundo's former tag partner.
Yeah. I did not know that he was...
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. And and then it brought back memories of when I saw that. I'm like, oh, Money Inc. I remember that tag team.
Yeah.
With $1 Billion Man and.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt was a former competitive wrestler. He is an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
And he looks that way. He's somebody, he may not have all the definition of, somebody like a Roman Reigns or like that, but he looks strong and he looks like he could hurt you if he wanted to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without a question. Yeah. So I think the signing of Punk is brilliant. I thought his promo was great. And that all-out pay-per-view, I'll tell you what, it's shaping up to be quite a spectacular.
Yes.
And also, it's worth noting that if you want to see CM Punk in between now and whether he appears next on Dynamite or Rampage or All Out, he is going to be appearing on the Stars Wrestling Series Heels, which is very good. It's a very good show. It stars Arrow
Steve
himself.
Amell.
Stephen Amell,
Yeah, the Arrow.
Good Canadian boy. And I can report, thankfully, that there is no Felicity in this show.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're happy. Yeah.
Oh, I'm very happy. Anytime, and I saw there's a blonde girl in the show, and I'm like, please don't turn out to be like Felicity. Please don't be like Felicity. Please don't.
It would be cool though if maybe they could do a crossover where you have Candace Patton come in and try to grab them to go.
No, then she's gonna say you're not the DWL champion. We're the DWL. Oh no, please.
I just wanted to annoy you.
No. So I told Donnie what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a catch-up episode on heels once Donnie starts checking it out. We're gonna work on that and get that to you at some point on this podcast. But so those are my thoughts on Punk. Anything you want to add? Anything you want
to? Punk is the biggest return that I can think of that I wondered if it ever would actually happen. I'm a huge fan of his. I always have been. I've been a fan of his since Ring of Honor. Actually, my favorite promo that he ever cut was in Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And as somebody who I simply like him as a wrestler. I like the persona. I love the fact that he's a comic book writer and a comic book fan, and the fact that he's straight edge. I'm also straight edge. I have just connect with this guy, this character in many ways. To see him finally come back, and I'm going to lay it out all on the table here. I think he's a very good guy. Mixed martial arts was not for him. If you've seen his matches, he did not do well. So I'm glad he's back where he excels.
Yeah. Agreed. Completely. All right. So with that said, let's turn our attention to SummerSlam.
Okay. So do you want to quickly go through the matches for Rampage? I got quick notes here.
Okay. Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I didn't know you had notes. Yeah.
Sure, of course. I'm always prepared here on the
Multiverse. You're the note from the first note to the last.
The first note to the last. Okay. So we have Jurassic Express against Private Party. Pretty good match. A lot of energy, as you would expect at a Private Party. I'm a big fan of theirs. I do like Jungle Boy. I really like Luchasaurus. Private Party went for the gin and juice. It got countered into a DDT by Jungle Boy. Jurassic Express, yes, it was. Jurassic Express, they closed it out with the Teamwork Powerbomb on Mark Quinn for the win.
Yes.
So now they get a shot at the Young Bucks.
You know what I like about this is they're really building up Jungle Express as contenders and probably, for my money, the next champions.
Yes.
Like, I think it's time.
I would agree. I think the Young Bucks at this point, first of all, they're no longer young, the Young Bucks. Yeah, they could elevate Bucks. Some other, middle-aged Bucks.
The elderly Bucks.
They could elevate some other tag teams. I also think, and I'm probably in the minority on this, I'd like to see Luchasaurus go on to some single success. I think he has potential.
Right. I think what you do is give them a tag title run. Mm-hmm. You know, and then once that's over, then split them both off into singles.
Yeah.
Because Jungle Boy is so over right now that putting a title on him of some sort is probably a really good bet.
Yeah, Jungle Boy is an incredible worker. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And every time, you know, and he's got the theme song that is very, catchy, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's I love how, like, the crowd with his theme song and Jericho's theme song, the crowd really gets into into it, and I like that. But
I've got to say, and I'm not even a particular fan of Chris Jericho at this point, just because I've seen him for so long. I was a fan of his in his prime. That song, if you listen to that a few times, it's really catchy, and all of a sudden you'll want to sing along with it. So
it is. It gets in your head. And every time I see Jungle Boy, I think of his dad, because Luke Perry, 902, and also, and I didn't watch it. My sister watched it when she was younger, so I was a kid, so it was on in the background, or in my background. I wasn't paying attention. I was probably playing with some He-Man figures or some such. So I think of the 90210 theme song every time every time he comes into the ring. I'm like, come on, but just once. You gotta but yeah, to me, just Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy seem like the ones to do it. I don't think. What are they? The Varsity Blondes?
The Brian Pillman. Yeah, that's the Varsity Blondes. That's Brian Pillman's
I mean,
son.
they're making their way up the ranks. I don't think they're tag team champion ready just yet. So the logical thing for me would be to put her on those two, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. So yeah.
Yes, I would agree. Next up, we had Jade Cargill versus Kiera Hogan. And this was typical for what Jade Cargill has done since coming into AEW, which is absolutely dominate. So Kiera Hogan tried talking a little smack. She preened a little bit for the crowd. She ran into a massive kick from Jade Cargill, who hit her finisher. I forget exactly what Jade calls it. It's the Glam Slam, though. Regardless, it looks like it hurts, and Jade Cargill is really standing out in AEW. She's becoming a huge star. So I think there are just endless possibilities as far as marketing goes with Jade Cargill. Tony Khan needs to do whatever he can to hold on to her.
Well, I don't think she's in a hurry to be leaving. So I don't think you have to worry about that yet.
In AEW, she stands out. Not that there's not some talent in the female division, but in WWE, there is kind of a glut of talent. There's an embarrassment of riches.
And she'd get lost in the shuffle over there.
Right. I wouldn't want to see that right now, especially with her making her way up. So I hope she stays in AEW for a while.
Yeah, me too. I'd like to see some of those other people go, like some of the talent that's not getting there doing the women's division in WWE. I'd like to see them go over to AEW. Mm-hmm. Is what I'd like to see, which is probably, it wouldn't surprise me. Listen, I'll tell you what, it's not going to happen. But if Alexa Bliss ever jumps ship, guess where Adam's going full time, because That's the only thing drawing me to Raw right now. I'll tell you that. It's not. What's their name? Randy Orton and Super Bro. No, what is it?
RK Bro.
RK Bro. Ridiculous. Yeah, like you can put him with Randy Orton all you want. It's not going to get that guy over in my book.
Well, I think, when we talk about SummerSlam in a minute, I think the crowds are into him. I don't understand it, but
I don't get it either. Yeah. I don't get it.
Okay. Quick last match here. Jon Moxley versus Daniel Garcia. So it was kind of, your typical Jon Moxley match, and that's a good thing. I mean, a lot of brawling. Garcia escaped the paradigm shift at one point to roll up for a leg submission, and I like the ending of this because he tried to crank on the submission really hard, and when he did, he went back too far, and Moxley snatched him into the bulldog choke, and then he shifts his hips.
That was a good move. I like that.
You know why? That's realistic because you'll see guys in like MMA matches where they're going for a move and they forget about their body positioning and they get caught in something in the meantime.
And you know what's cool too is that Moxley, because he's such a brawler, like in his matches, you don't expect that finesse, that kind of,
No, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Stone Cold. Stone Cold.
Oh yeah, he's very much like Diet Stone Cold, right?
Yeah. Stone Cold would do that kind of stuff where he would brawl and then he could bring out something like.
Yes, but remember, Stone Cold was also the ringmaster at one point.
Yeah, and Stunning Steve
and the $1 million champion. Remember?
Yes. Yes. I'm actually in the minority, and I'm going to say this. It's going to seem like blasphemy to some people. I actually preferred Steve Austin as Stunning Steve because he was more diverse in his moveset. But that's yeah.
All right. All right. I'm sure the comment section will really enjoy that.
Most people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. So,
but yeah.
One of my favorite lines was when he told Hacksaw Duggan one time, "I'm going to punch you in your good eye."
You know what I liked about the show overall? Like you said, there were 3 matches. Yeah, the Jade Cargill match was rather short, but that was just to show her dominance more so than anything else. But the other ones were good, like full-length 20-minute matches. Like, again, in a 60-minute show, not counting commercials, you saw about 38 to 40 minutes of wrestling.
Right.
And
well, I said, and go ahead, sir.
Man, is that a welcome sight.
Well, and I've said that. I don't have a problem with big events, pay-per-views, stream-per-views, whatever you want to call them, being 3 hours. I don't think that if you're on TV twice a week, you need to go 2 and 3 hours per show. I think 1 hour works. And I think this is the perfect format for Rampage.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I've got to say, one thing I want to say here. I saw people, and this is a true measure of success, who don't watch wrestling, who are commenting online on social media about the CM Punk return. That's how you know you've stepped out of the realm of just being a good wrestling show to have done something that is really making waves.
It's true, yeah. Absolutely. I saw the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say it's true, but I didn't want to sound like Kurt Angle. But yeah, a solid start. And again, the subsequent weeks, we're not going to cover all 3 episodes, but the subsequent weeks just continue to get better.
Yes.
So
AEW has found its footing. It seemed to be early on, and it's not to be unexpected. It was kind of a hodgepodge of different companies. It didn't have its own flavor. Now it is developing its own flavor, even though it has a lot of ex-WWE talent.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at them as WWE people anymore. You can look at, Cody Rhodes and, The Big Show and people like that and say, Christian Cage, they are AEW wrestlers now. AEW is very much making its own way in pop culture, I think.
Absolutely. Um, I can't wait. Like I said, I think that pay-per-view, all out, it's going to be something special.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and again, AEW doing so well is great. It's great for the industry.
Mm-hmm. And I also have to say, I'm very impressed with the AEW wrestling figures. They are amazing.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay,
100%.
so since we're talking about pay-per-view, shall we go on now and talk about the other side of the equation, SummerSlam?
Let's do it.
Any other thoughts on AEW?
No, just bring on the next show.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about SummerSlam 2021. Everything that I've heard about this was a massive hit for WWE. I've heard that, the viewership was up, merchandise sales were up, and I want to talk a little bit about why that is at the end of this. But SummerSlam started, first of all, before SummerSlam started on the pre-show, there was Big E versus Baron Corbin. Big E got the briefcase back. Baron Corbin's now in which makes sense. Big E, obviously, at some point he'll cash in the Money in the Bank.
Of course, yeah.
Baron Corbin, and it's funny, a lot of this has taken place on social media and offline. He's now gone from, being a pauper to having won a bunch of money in Vegas, and now he's rich.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, actually on last night on SmackDown, he offered Big E $100,000 to buy the briefcase back.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
But anyway, as far as the pay-per-view itself, it opens up with the tag champions, the Raw tag champions, AJ Styles and Omos against RK Bro. Now, again, I'm going to say it's not that I dislike Riddle. I don't understand the gimmick, and I don't like that they're continuing
the gimmick is stupid, yeah.
I hope after WrestleMania, the way he got squashed by Bobby Lashley the night after WrestleMania, I'd hope that he would be repackaged. But I've got to be objective. If when you watch SummerSlam, if you hear the ovation for him, people are into whatever it is he's doing.
Yeah,
people are into it. So in this match, early on, RK Bro, they dominated AJ. Omos got tagged in. He dominated Riddle, as you would expect.
Oh.
Eventually, when AJ got back in, we had some good storytelling here with Orton and Riddle attacking Omos on the apron as they would do moves to AJ. So they do a move to AJ, and then they go over and attack Omos on the apron to try to keep him off balance. So the match ends. Omos he's on the outside. He tries to ram Riddle into the ring post. Riddle slides off of his back and pushes Omos into the ring post. This neutralizes temporarily Omos. Orton hits the RKO on AJ for the win. So, this was done well in the fact that Omos was protected. He didn't look weak at all. But if they really do want to get the belts on RK Bro, they got them on them. The crowd was seemingly very pleased. It was a good way to kick off the show because the crowd was into it. So I'm going to say this match was basic and effective. Give it 3 out of 5 stars.
I'm glad that AJ and Omos aren't the champions anymore. I never thought that worked. I thought it was ridiculous that here AJ is doing 99.5% of the work, and then just because big man who still to me hasn't proven that he's capable of anything other than being big, having that to his advantage. So I'm glad the titles are off them. I'm just not into RK Bro at all.
I go back to WrestleMania now. Was it really necessary to squash New Day that way for a 4-month title reign that ends to RK Bro?
That's what I mean.
So.
I have much more believability having RK Bro beat New Day
Sure.
That makes more sense than what transpired here. But yeah, whatever. At least, like I said, at least AJ and the big man aren't tag champs anymore.
Right.
So there's
and like I said, they did protect Omos. WWE doesn't really have any giants right now. At some point,
but protect him to do what?
I've got to believe that they've got big plans for this guy. Once he gets some seasoning.
What are they? Who's he going to face?
I've got to. It wouldn't surprise me if in the next couple of years we see him as the IC champ or the US champ.
I just haven't seen enough. Like to me, show me his in-ring capability. Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Show me that.
Well, he's athletic enough to move. His moves are basic, but like I said, they don't have any other giants, and they haven't for a long time.
Right. So what are they gonna do? Twiddle his thumb until they get another big man in there?
Well, no, but my thoughts are you can use him. You can use that size against a smaller competitor, and have him win and be believable. So
I just wouldn't want to see a title on that guy solely based on the I'm big.
I don't think it's going to happen right now. I do think it's going to happen in the future, though. So
I don't know. I'm not a fan of that character. I don't see like a lot of the other big men that WWE has had the fortune of having have shown that they have in-ring talent. I've yet to see that here. So to me, it's not a character that I'm looking to see progress. Like if he walked out of the company tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, see ya.
Okay.
I
think they have a lot invested in him. I think obviously.
And look, if they're investing in him over something like Bray Wyatt, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that later, but yeah, definitely don't let Bray Wyatt go.
But you could have done a thing with him and Braun Strowman, but Braun Strowman's gone. So
right. Yeah, another mistake, I would say. All right, up next we have Eva Marie with Dewdrop on the outside against Alexa Bliss and Lily. I've got to say, WWE's graphics for these matches, they are outstanding. WWE, whether they're your taste or not, they're always on the cutting edge with visuals. And that graphic that they have with Alexa Bliss with the smiley face that has, the half face or whatever, really good. That's an eye-catching visual.
It's very Two-Face inspired.
Yes. So early on, Eva attacked Lily, who was sitting on, the ring post, and this infuriated Alexa.
Yes.
Dewdrop, who's on the outside, she has apparently had enough of Eva's antics, so she gave her some kind of insincere support from ringside. Alexa hit some nice moves. She missed with a Twisted Bliss, though. I actually thought for a second, I thought that Eva was going to score the win. She didn't. Alexa kicked out. Eva jawed with the ref, and she turned into a sweet DDT by Alexa for the win.
I like the part where Alexa basically when Eva Marie was attacking Lily, and then Alexa just went nuts and just leaped onto her and started just the ground and pound routine.
Yeah,
that was pretty the switch, the switch going off into crazy mode. You could see it, and that's the performance. The acting capability of Alexa Bliss there is on.
Well, Alexa has a lot of charisma. Speaking of charisma,
DDT.
Oh, sweet.
Great.
Dewdrop put on Eva's robe after the match, even when Eva protested, and she gave her the Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 3 when Eva protested, and she was like pulled through the hand, and she just kind of walked off with her robe. So Dewdrop has some charisma. I'm interested to see where they go with her. So
yeah.
So I would say a short match. It was tight, some well done spots. 3.5 stars out of 5.
All right. Yeah.
And I have to ask later on, there was a spot where I think they could have inserted Alexa again, and I'll get to that in a minute. So next up, we have Damian Priest versus Sheamus for the United States title. So it was a stiff match. You had the up-and-coming star against the rugged veteran. So lots of believable shots in this match. I think one time in particular, it looked like Sheamus connected with the headbutt because it looked like there was a knot kind of rising up on Damian Priest's forehead. Mm-hmm. So Priest did a spot over the ropes also, I want to say this, where he did a flip and he landed on his back. Now, Sheamus used this as part of the storyline in the match. One thing I got to say about Damian Priest, who I think is a star, some of the moves he does, I think, are a little risky for a big guy. I think he can show his athleticism without taking some of those chances.
I agree with that.
Because I looked at that move and I said, that's the kind of thing that he could hurt his back and end his career.
Yeah.
So, and I get the fact that he's trying not to be your usual big guy. He wants to showcase his athleticism, but sometimes maybe, discretion's the better part of valor. So Sheamus, he ripped at Priest's face, used a lot of heel tactics. I really like this one spot. He draped Priest over the top rope and did the clubbing forearm shots. And when the crowd got into it and tried to count, he turned around and looked at him and was like, no, you don't get to enjoy this. That's what a heel's supposed to do. And the crowd didn't like it. Yeah. So he was like, yeah, you don't get to enjoy this. That was outstanding. Priest hit a top rope spinning crescent kick. I don't know if he has a name for that move, but it's really impressive. So Sheamus hit, I believe it was an Alabama slam that I thought was going to end it. Priest kicked out. Sheamus actually used the face protector to headbutt Priest. That's the shot I was talking about. I think he actually stiffed him a little bit. And eventually Priest, he tore the face mask, the protector, off of Sheamus. And he hits the Reckoning for the win and becoming the new United States champion.
I actually like this decision. I think, we've talked about it before. I think Damian Priest needs to be in the title picture, and now he is as the U.S. champion. I think he's incredibly talented. And
he looks like a star. The
hair,
absolutely. The tattoos, the physique, the tights. Yeah.
And that's what I mean, a big man that can actually move and, wrestle and do things.
And Sheamus is somebody who, at this point, he's very valuable to WWE on the high mid-card because he can put people over like this. He's also believable if you have to have, like a tag match, an important tag match.
And he's a great heel. He works as a heel.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, crowd was really into this match. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars.
And also, it was worth noting that this past weekend they were showing on TV. Actually, the weekend of SummerSlam, they were showing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow, where he appeared as was it Bebop or which one did he play?
I can't remember whether it was Bebop or Rocksteady now, but
yeah, but you know what I mean. And
yes.
So it was nice to see Sheamus there, and it was fun. I got to see Sheamus and Green Arrow. It was funny.
All right, so next up we have the Usos versus the Mysterios for the SmackDown belts.
Right.
So early on, we got a lot of Mexican-style wrestling, which is always exciting.
Absolutely.
Dominic did the triple suplex sequence, and the crowd started to chant Eddie, which always gets me a little bit because I still miss Eddie Guerrero. So the Usos, they worked over direct message in the corner. That's always what I think about when I see Dominic because he has the DM on his chest, and I was like, direct message. So they worked him over in the corner while Pat McAfee screamed unintelligibly during this match. I don't know what all that was about. So lots of quick high spots. Rey Mysterio, he's excitement personified at this point in his career. You know who he is. He can still do amazing things despite his age. The Usos, arguably the best tag team in the business right now. So they won the match with the double super kick move and then hitting the splash. And so they seem to be moving on now to a feud with the Street Profits. I'd like to see a big match for them at WrestleMania. Maybe like an ending match with New Day, since New Day seems to be on the way out. But I'm interested to see where they go with the Usos. I'm not sure what's next for the Mysterios, whether they're going to let Dominic kind of go off on his own. I'm not sure.
I would think that it's time that he gets a singles push.
Yeah. But this was another good match against a lot of athletic guys. Again, the Usos, they have a lot of interest in them right now. They're both incredibly charismatic and very athletic. So another match, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5.
Right, and they're. It's funny you said the New Day is seemingly on the way out. I would think the Usos aren't that far behind. I mean,
the Usos, I don't. It doesn't come to mind how old they are, but to me, it seems like they're hitting their stride with this bloodline angle right now. I mean, that's one of the centerpieces of the company. So I gotta think that they're going to be around for a while.
Right, I just can't see them being, tag champs for.
Well, eventually we're going to see them go on as singles. I mean, we did see a hint of that before. So yeah. So next up, and I hate to say this, but we have the low point of the night. First of all, I don't understand why WWE wasted several minutes on a video package of something they couldn't deliver. Because they showed the history of the Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, feud leading up to this match.
Sure.
And if you can't deliver that, why do you show that video package? What?
Kill time, Donnie.
I guess so. I mean, but why dangle that in front of the viewer? It was a match that everyone was anticipating. So
yeah.
So out comes Carmella, and we're told that night that Sasha Banks is unable to compete. I did a couple kind of perfunctory glances at the internet to see what that was about. I still haven't found out exactly. And I definitely don't want to spread rumors. I don't know why she didn't compete that night.
Okay.
But out comes Carmella and says, "Yeah, well, I'll take the title shot." Okay. First of all, why Carmella again? Why not Alexa? Why not bring out Tamina or Nia Jax? Somebody who would be a threat to Bianca, and have Bianca. Let him attack Bianca, and give some trepidation with 5 minutes of a sneak attack or whatever. Can Bianca come back? Yes, she can, because she's the EST. Let her win the match, and then out should come Becky Lynch.
Yeah,
that's how I would have booked it.
Yeah, me
but
too.
Instead, Becky Lynch comes out, throws Carmella out of the ring, and says, "Yeah, let's go, let's wrestle." I'm like, does anybody actually earn title shots anymore? Or can you just come out and say, "Hey, I want a shot at the belt"?
No, in WWE, you just. Donnie, unfortunately, this is one of my issues with WWE. As much as I still watch it, the titles mean nothing. They're just props. It's like,
Well, see, here's the thing. That match, Bianca versus Becky Lynch, was a money match. The kind of thing they could have saved for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Okay? And all they had to do, they would have had the same level of excitement had Becky Lynch come out after Bianca beats someone, comes to the ring, looks her square in the eyes, and says, "You've got something that belongs to me, that belt right there." Yeah. Everybody would have went nuts because everybody wants to see Becky versus Bianca. Yeah. I don't think the way it went down, it helped Becky at all, and I definitely didn't help Bianca.
First of all, okay, let me, because this is one of the matches this is one of the things I specifically watched. I don't understand this constant pushing of Carmella. Her claim to fame is what? That she won the first Money in the Bank? Like the women's Money in the Bank? Wow. What else? Oh, she's dating Corey Graves. Wow.
Well, that's why I'm saying, and it's and she, by the way, she's a decent mid-card wrestler at this point.
She's okay, but she's not championship material.
That's what I'm saying. Why not threaten Bianca with somebody that would believably beat her? Instead of saying, okay, well, here's Carmella again. The whole thing just seemed slapped together, and it wasn't even a match.
I get it. Vince likes her because she's blonde. She looks like Charlotte Flair. That's Vince's thing. But the crowd isn't into Carmella.
Nobody thought Carmella was going to beat Bianca.
Vince and Corey Graves are, but that's about it. Like every time I see her, I'm like, oh, her again. Like,
What? And seemingly, Becky took a cheap shot and beat Bianca. And based on what I saw on SmackDown last night, it looks like Becky's turning heel, which I don't think people want. But
my thing is, okay, so let's say, like you said, have Bianca win the match, even if they have to have Carmella in the match. Have Bianca win the match, right? And then if you want Becky to turn heel, have her come out. The fans will be screaming, right?
Right.
Her music hits, and then she attacks
Bianca from behind, right? Yeah. Something
and
like that would have achieved the same thing.
And puts the beat down on her, and then you build up the feud. Not what they basically did was it WrestleMania 9 or 10, the one in Caesar's Palace?
The one where Hogan beat Yokozuna at the very end?
Yeah, where Brett lost at first.
Yes.
Right? And then Hogan came in, and then in 10 seconds, at the end, won the belt. And look, I'm an old school Hulkamaniac, but even I know that sucked.
Right. At what point did Mr. Fuji get to make matches? Because I remember Mr. Fuji was like, hey, Hogan, we'll put up the belt. And I was like, why do you get to say that? If I'm Yokozuna, I'm like, hey.
And the other thing, too, is, look, maybe fans didn't care about Yokozuna as champion. I get that. Like that, I certainly didn't back in the day. Like
I thought he was great, but
however,
I digress.
No, but as world champion, I didn't, like, that's not something that, oh my God, I want to see Yokozuna have a title run. But the difference is, a lot of people were into Bianca as champion.
Yes.
There was no need for that squashing.
I don't understand that at all. So.
And how do you build her back up after that?
Well, I mean, she did get a big win Friday night. It's going to take some time to actually.
Liv Morgan?
Yeah, but again, I don't think you let someone get squashed like that, even when.
And again, Liv Morgan has talent. See, again, that's another wasted one.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan, to me, is more talented than Carmella.
Mm-hmm.
She's got more personality than Carmella.
Well, that's why, my point with like Tamina or Nia Jax. You're talking about two really powerful wrestlers. You bring one of them out and let them attack Bianca, and the crowd would have been like, oh, wait a minute, she's in danger here. So
yeah, no, for the purposes of that, yeah. But I'm saying, in terms of pushing other people, why not? Why aren't they giving Liv Morgan a shot? Why is it always Carmella?
Well, yeah, somebody likes Carmella, so.
A couple people, we know.
Right.
Which two? That's about it.
So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this a 1 out of 5. And it's not that I am a huge fan of Becky Lynch. I'm a huge fan of Bianca Belair. I think they both could have an outstanding match.
You know what that reeks of? That reeks of a reactionary move because, look at the ratings CM Punk did over in AEW. We need a couple big returns to try and top that. That's what that reeks of.
Yeah. And they didn't need to do that, but I'll say more about that later on. So next up we have Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre. Mahal hit a sweet kick to Drew's chin, and then he grounded him, tried some holds on him. Drew McIntyre made his comeback, hit the Future Shock DDT, hit the Claymore kick, and ended it. So this was just a way, I think, of trying to remind people who Drew is after he got beaten by Lashley so many times.
Yeah.
So Shanky and Veer came out, and they looked like they were ready to attack Drew McIntyre 2-on-1. But Drew McIntyre goes to the corner, and he says, by the power of Grayskull, pulls out the sword, and they were like, no, we don't want any of that.
That'd be really cool if he did that.
That would have been awesome.
Oh, actually, Vince McMahon would have sent out somebody in a Battle Cat costume. So, I don't know. I don't know if I want to see that. Again, building back Drew up, after his, like you said, after he's had a rough go of it against Lashley is important. But I like that it gave what's his name?
Drew?
No.
Or Jinder.
Jinder. I was going to call him Jahinder. Jinder. Yeah. I like that it gave him, a little bit of a push these last few weeks. He's a Canadian kid, so I gotta support.
So again, but this was just it was a basic match for, again, to like give Drew a little bit of momentum back. 2.5 stars out of 5. So
yeah.
Okay, so next up we have, for the Raw title, we have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair versus Nikki Cross, Nikki ASH, almost a superhero. So this match,
you know what? I just gotta
Go
say
ahead.
this right now. As much of a superhero fan as I am, I hate this gimmick for her.
I'm not a huge fan of it. Yeah, I like her enthusiasm for whatever she's doing, but yeah, I wish they would give her something else now. So, although it looks like, she and Rhea Ripley are now forming a tag team, so that looks like the direction they're sending her. So,
yeah.
I will say this though, until this point in the program, this might be the best match of the night until this point, because we'd have some great ones come later. So, excellent work by all three ladies. You had a lot of spots that were done well for the type of match this is. That is, you hit a big move, try to isolate your opponent, try to get the pin, then the other person comes and rips you off. They did a lot of moves like that in quick succession, and it really came off as energetic, and the crowd was very much into it.
Mm-hmm.
So Nikki, a myriad of spots by Nikki. She had a lot of good energy. She hit a beautiful top rope cross body onto both of her opponents on the floor. There were some really risky spots in this match. Not that I didn't enjoy them, but I cringed a few times because I was like, I hope nobody sustains a really serious injury here. So, in fact, Charlotte hit a corkscrew backflip onto both of her opponents on the floor, and I think at least a couple of them kind of banged their heads on the floor. So, yeah. I mean, it was they were all three showcasing just how amazing the WWE women's division has become.
Yeah, that's one thing I will give the company. They've done well with the women's division.
Yes. So Charlotte applied the figure 8 to Rhea, and Nikki broke it up. Got a 2 count on Charlotte, but then Charlotte put Nikki in the figure 8, and it was over. So this match, very fast-paced. Like I said, just a plethora of near falls, lots of good moves. 4.5 out of 5.
And I'm not shocked that Charlotte is champion again.
Charlotte's a huge star, and her time in the spotlight is nowhere near done. I know some people are just like, no, I want this person or whatever. She's held the belt a lot, but she's still young enough to stick around for years and have more title reigns. So.
And the thing is, they're probably aware of that, and they're aware of the fact that with her father being let go from the company, her fiance is in AEW. If you don't, put her over, what's to say that when her contract expires,
she's there too.
Jump ship, right? Right?
Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
That would be a fun match.
Charlotte Flair versus Britt Baker. I'd like to see it.
Yeah. So
come on, Charlotte, jump over. I think Rick is going to end up there. So
yeah, I definitely think so. So next up we have Edge.
By the way, can I just digress for a second?
Go ahead.
A lot of people are saying, well, are they going to put Rick with his son-in-law? If he goes there, I don't think they will, because he's already got who's he got? Juventud. He's got one of the Guerreros with him.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to put Rick with him. Notice how in AEW, Cody Rhodes says he's retiring.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling Rick is going to bring Cody out of retirement.
Could be. I'd like to see Rick with MJF, managing MJF. That's just
that's a good one too. Yeah.
So I have good ideas. Somebody call me. Give me the booking pencil. So anyway, that's not how that works though. So next up we have.
You're not blonde enough for Vince,
yeah. Let's not go there.
And you sneeze it one too many times. So.
Well, yeah, that's true, especially after I've had coffee. So Edge comes out to a kind of a modified version of his Brood theme. It was part Brood theme and then is part his current theme, which I thought really worked well.
Cool.
And Seth Rollins came out for some reason cosplaying as Sonar from DC Comics. But anyway, the story here, and I like that they definitely had a theme for this match, was that Rollins kept going for Edge's neck, and that he's going to try to stomp his neck and maybe debilitate him and, try to end his career. So I will say this, the neck breaker from the top rope was just jaw-dropping.
Yeah,
they did that several minutes into the match. I was like, I don't think I've seen that spot in a long time from anyone. So Edge could not put Rollins away with a spear. He couldn't make him tap out to the educator, so he tries to embrace his more, diabolical evil side, locks him in a crossface submission, and then basically bounces him off the canvas like Allen Iverson doing a crossover, just again and again and again. And he finally hits him so many times that he puts a modified sleeper on and beats him with that. So
I'm just curious what they're gonna do with Rollins. He seems like he's stuck in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not sure where they're going with his character.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't do a Shield reunion because Moxley's over in AEW. He doesn't really belong with what Roman Reigns is doing right now. So what do you do with him? So
I still think they're going to give Edge a title run.
Think so? Okay.
At some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, what's he going to stick around and do?
He seems to be enjoying himself. I will say that
that's true. But I mean, the whole point was him to come back and unfinished business, winning the title that he never lost.
Sure, right.
So at some point, you'd figure they got to do that one more time before.
But I'm going to give this match 4.5 out of 5. It was just a great match. There were a couple spots that the timing was a little off, but it was close to a 5-star match. It was great, and the crowd just really loved the end with Edge just kind of bouncing Rollins' head off the mat. So,
yeah.
So next up, for the WWE title, we have Lashley versus Goldberg. And guess what? The crowd turned on Goldberg.
Shocking.
And
you don't say it, Donnie.
The thing is, it's kind of, some people say the law of diminishing returns. We've seen Goldberg come back so many times, and now he's 54 years old. The guy is really impressive for a 54-year-old. I'm sure that he would break, most men half his age in half, but people have seen that so often that it seemed like this time the crowd was just like, we'd rather not see, the spear and the win again at your age. So the way this, and I got to say, I for all the heat that I gave WWE for the booking of the women, I think they made the right call here.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
What you saw is Lashley was portrayed as Goldberg's equal physically. And MVP hit Goldberg with the cane in his knee, which Goldberg kind of forgot to sell. Like, it was kind of a delayed reaction. But he eventually sells it. Lashley then works on the knee to the point that the referee has to stop the match, that Goldberg can't continue. And Lashley retains the title. Then there was a very telling moment where Goldberg's son Gage jumps in and tries to stop Lashley from continuing his assault on Goldberg. And Lashley then locked the Hurt Lock on Goldberg's teenage son, and the crowd popped. So if that's happening, obviously they were not into Goldberg. So, yeah. So 3.5 stars out of 5, but the crowd was behind Lashley.
So I wonder, is this the end of the Goldberg experiment?
It doesn't seem that way because Lashley walked off. It was, Goldberg was like swearing revenge. So I'm not interested in seeing Goldberg with a belt at this point. If he wants to have a big retirement match at WrestleMania some year, sure. But
some year? How about this year? Don't give him the some year option. We're never going to get over it. Like, this is never going to end. The guy's going to be Ric Flair's age, still getting in the ring, having matches.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I love Flair, but I don't want to see him wrestle again.
Yeah.
I
would, Shawn Michaels, who was my favorite wrestler for, a decade and a half, I don't want to see him come back at this point and have a long run.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that you just don't want to see in the ring again.
Yeah.
As much as you love them.
So we close out the show with the much anticipated John Cena versus Roman Reigns. And I've got to say, this match blew me away, and I want to talk a little bit about Cena after this is over. Reigns kicked out of 3 attitude adjustments. A regular one on the table, and one from Reigns was on the top rope, Cena was on the second rope. And it was really impressive, the kind of things that, first of all, I'll just go ahead and say this now. I'm not a fan of John Cena, the wrestler. But for a guy who hasn't been in the ring for, about a year and a half, 16 months, whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
To come back and pull off one of the best matches of his career at his age, I got to say I was impressed with the guy. Now, I knew Roman was going to bring his A game because I still feel like he is the most complete wrestler in the business today. And he showed you why he's capable of that. So, but this match, it was a long match. The crowd was into it. A lot of near falls. There was, like I said, at one point when Cena came off the top rope or the second rope and did that attitude adjustment, I thought it was over for a second. And I was just, I knew, I was like, well, Roman Reigns has said that he's going to leave if Cena pins him. But the way it happened, it was done so well. I was like, I think Cena's winning here. Obviously, Reigns kicked out.
Right.
So Reigns eventually hits a couple Superman punches and then hits the big spear. 1, 2, 3. Beat Cena cleanly, by the way. No interference from Paul Heyman. No interference from the Usos. And It was a way of saying, this is now Roman Reigns' company as far as him being the face of this company.
Sure. Yeah.
So, match of the year candidate. 5 out of 5. Amazing work. Of course, after the match, Brock Lesnar comes out. And Paul Heyman seemingly is giving birth to a baby in the corner the way he was screaming. But now we've got the storyline of where are Paul Heyman's loyalties. So you've got Brock Lesnar as a babyface.
Paul Heyman match.
Yeah.
The winner gets Paul Heyman.
Well, I sent my friend, custody of Paul Heyman ladder match. So
I wonder if they're going to put him. Yeah, they're going to hang him from the rafters.
Right. Hang him in a cage. Whoever wins gets Paul Heyman.
Briefcase.
Yeah, I sent my friend a picture of that. So. But let me just say something about John Cena here, though. And again, I've said, I'm not a huge fan of Cena, at least the character. John Cena, the man, seems like a wonderful person.
Absolutely, yeah.
But people wonder why they brought John Cena back. Well, let me give you a little bit of a lesson here. I love Kenny Omega. I love Roman Reigns. And I love CM Punk. Okay? Those are 3 wrestlers. I like all 3 of them. John Cena has more followers on Twitter by a long shot than all 3 of those guys combined.
Okay.
John Cena has started to transcend the business as a star. He's doing commercials. He's in Suicide Squad. So to bring him back, that's how WWE had such a massive number. And I like the fact that Roman Reigns got to go over because now you point to that point in his career and say Roman Reigns took out cleanly the guy who was the face of WWE for like 15 years. And that's how WWE had such engagement for SummerSlam.
Absolutely.
So, got to be objective. I mean, again, Cena's a huge star, and he helped
That
WWE
plus the fact that, they talk about attendance records. Yeah, but sure. But it's the first time you've really held SummerSlam in that kind of a venue in the States anyway. Right? So
I've got to say, would you go into the middle of 50,000 people right now?
No, absolutely.
That's one thing I got to say. And, and the wrestlers were like slapping hands with people, and I was just like,
when I saw CM Punk jumping into the crowd,
exactly,
I'm like, what are you doing? Don't do it.
No. Pandemic, it's not over. So, yeah, but this was...
Apparently where you live, they think it is, not where you live directly, but the country as a whole.
You're seeing all these shows emanating out of Texas and Florida and places like that. And, I mean, very small percentage of people wearing masks, and everybody's kind of packed in together. And I'm like, glad I'm not there. So, anyway.
Look, and I still won't. They've announced here that to go to a hockey or basketball game, either the Leafs or the Raptors, you have to show proof of vaccination. I still ain't going to a Leaf game. Because, with three reasons. A, to buy a ticket will cost one of my limbs. So, here's reason number 1.
You could buy a lot of comic books with what that costs.
Yeah, so you're damn right. I could buy a vintage Golden Age issue with it, pretty much. So there's that. B, there is the fact that if I spend all that money, there's a good chance they're going to lose. And C, I still don't trust the guy sitting beside me.
Exactly. And this has been the hockey/medical update portion of this podcast. So.
Yeah. Like I said, you have to do something extraordinary to get me to a place where I'm in a crowd of people.
Yeah.
I mean, if there were 49,000, 999, because I'll be the 50,000, right?
Right.
So if my math is correct, it'd have to be 49,999 other Alexa Blisses in the building. Then maybe I'll be like, all right, I'll risk it. But other than that, I ain't going.
Yeah, but so I want to close this out by saying this was a great SummerSlam, combined with the fact that you had CM Punk returning. This was just a magnificent weekend for pro wrestling fans. So
now, would you say that, first of all, I got a comment on the you mentioned. Oh, you didn't mention. Oh yeah, you did. Brock, sorry, you did.
Yes.
Again, I get the attraction of whose side is Paul Heyman on.
Right.
I don't see Brock dethroning Roman. The crowd.
I think it's possible. I don't know.
I don't think, but do you think the audience really wants to see that?
I don't know that people want to see it, but I think it's believable enough to where Brock can do that.
From a physical standpoint, it's believable.
Yeah, it's believable.
Do I want to see it again? No. Like, I'm tired of, and back in the day, I liked him. He was an imposing figure. Mm-hmm. The character worked. But at this point, I'm done with seeing Brock Lesnar. It's an old hat.
Right. No, I agree. But just like, when I talk about with all of Cena's Twitter followers, from what I've seen online, the return of Lesnar, and by the way, who attacked Cena after the match was over and gave a bunch of, which I also found that enjoyable. But that was one of the most viewed viral videos of all time, was Lesnar attacking Cena after the event. So it's one of those things. Brock Lesnar moves the needle the way John Cena does. A lot of wrestling fans, especially longtime wrestling fans, we may not like it, but you bring those guys back for a pop for the mainstream culture.
Well, let's be honest. He brought him back to counter CM Punk, right?
Right. Yeah.
The difference is, I haven't seen Punk wrestle in 7 years. Mm-hmm. I've seen this Brock Lesnar pony show
for almost 20 years, and that's my issue. Brock Lesnar is one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time. Love the guy.
I'm not disputing that. Yeah. I'm just disputing that. Yeah. Brock Lesnar returning after a hiatus. Been there, done that. it just like to me.
Yeah, I don't want to see the same things I was watching in 2005. So.
The long-term problem is this: Bobby Lashley ain't getting any younger. He's got limited time left.
Right.
Roman Reigns, how long is he really going to stick? Like, how long can he?
He's got a few good years left if he stays healthy.
But if he's going to stay healthy, you got to remember he's in remission, but he does have those issues. Add to that, still the pandemic. But while he's still here for a few years, like inactive active wrestling, use that again. Here's WWE's biggest problem: building and cultivating new talent. Every time you bring one of these part-timers back, you're taking away from cultivating new talent. Becky Lynch squashing Bianca is not cultivating new talent.
Yep, I would agree.
Like Becky Lynch is a mom. At some point, she's going to want to step away permanently and be a mom.
Yeah. Did you see the T-shirt that they offered for? It was a limited time. It was her. It was the template that they used for the man. Only it said the mom.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I thought that was creative. So.
But you know what I mean? Like she's got, because of the pull of being a mom is gonna get there, right?
Yeah.
So she's got a window of time left. So my point is, bringing back these guys for the cheap pop, doesn't do anything to solve your long-term problem about building and cultivating new stars. Whereas if CM Punk is used proper, and look, AEW is not, they could botch it, but if CM Punk is used properly, he's there to help cultivate and build new stars. That's the difference. Vince isn't thinking that way. Vince is thinking, I need ratings tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah. So, no, I'm in full agreement. Obviously, like I said, I think that the only way wrestling survives is you've got to create new stars and you've got to be, ever refreshing yourself. Your product has to stay vital and young. So, yeah.
So, I don't know.
But like I said, in conclusion, a huge weekend that I will always remember as a wrestling fan.
Absolutely. For sure. That's our wrap up on the weekend of all weekends in the last little while in wrestling. So
we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe to the channel.
Yes, indeed, please do. And if you want to talk more wrestling with us, you can. So Donnie, where do they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk comics. Let's talk Green Lantern.
All right. And if you want to talk with me, it's at Adam_LeadsFan on Twitter. And the podcast network is at MMNPDC. We've got the Facebook group. If you click the link below, you can join. You can request permission to join. I'll add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, remember that CM Punk very well could be the best in the world forever. From the first free ice cream bar at the United Center to the lounge. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.